good morning to everyone. I haven't seen now, but I think we are, how many people are we? 7, including me. All right, cool. So yeah, the today's morning session is about the Power Platform governance. As said, my name is Constantin. I work for a consulting company based in Germany, close to Frankfurt, so in central Germany. I studied industrial engineering. I was in supply chain management before, but there were a couple of processes that needed to be automated, and this was so much fun for me that I stopped working as in supply chain management, but came to a consulting company that is doing everything around Microsoft products. And I was the team lead for the Power Platform before. Now I'm the product manager of a small software as a service startup at the moment, which is called Runpipe, which provides a governance not only for the Power Platform but for other local platforms as well. Because what we often see is like more in bigger companies that they don't use just Power Automate, but they're using UiPath, they're using Automation Anywhere, Nintex, and so on. I don't want to talk a lot about Runpipe today. I want to talk about the governance, and since we just have 45 minutes today, this should be about. Sorry, it's a little bit of noise. Nigel, if it's fine, I would mute you for now. Okay, thanks. I would like to talk about like what is the kickstart for building up a governance. What do you should take into consideration? Because oftentimes we see that governance is, if you talk about governance, many people talk about the Center of Excellence Starter Kit, and they think just because I'm implementing this or just because I'm installing it, I have a governance in place that does everything for me, which is not the case. But I will cover all of this today. So as already said, my company's name is Ionic. The product is called Runpipe, and we're doing trainings, change management, and the development of Power Apps at our customers. I would like to know a little bit more about you. So you're in this meeting because you want to learn something about the governance of the Power Platform. Maybe you can just use those like emojis that you have on the top of your Microsoft Teams to just let me know like where are you, in which stage are you of building a governance inside of the Power Platform. Let's see, someone's already in the setup phase. Devas, I think it was you. The other ones. All right. So most of you who said something are either in the setup or they already established a governance, which is really great. I hope you're going to learn something new as well today. But of course, I want to know more about like you as well. Like, what are your opinions? What are your like your challenges that you're facing within the governance of the Power Automate or Power Platform? So first of all, this is our agenda. So first of all, we're going to talk about local challenges, then about how you can secure your tenants. Before monitoring activity, the next phase is to alert and act, which is like the approach that Microsoft as well suggests. And the last thing is enable your citizen developers. So make them aware of your governance, of compliance regulations, so that they can, inside of this, yeah, Q&A, sorry. You can just type in your questions into the chat and we will talk about them later. I will check from time to time whenever those questions fit. So enabling your citizen developers, of course, is an important thing as well, because you want to be everyone aware of your governance, but you want to make them successful app makers. Okay, before we start with the challenges, I think most of you know what the Power Platform is. That's why I make it short. So those are the 4 components. They don't live by their own. They live with data, and those data come from several different data connectors. I can't display every data connector in here, but there are like hundreds of other connectors as well. And about those we're going to talk as well when we talk about the data loss prevention policies. All right, the first thing is the agenda. What I already heard from you, Marco, is that like in your customers, they oftentimes roll out the Power Platform, or they don't do a proper rollout maybe, but everyone is using low-code applications, and they just spread around your tenant. And this is the first time, most of the time, that people consider governance inside of their company. And this is when the mess is already done. So your citizen developers are just developing without any rules or regulations. They can use every connector they want. Of course, most of the time, if they're not premium connectors, but they can use like the Twitter connector and the SharePoint connector and just blow out information to Twitter if they want. Then you have the default environment as the only place to develop for the citizen developers. So there's no proper staging, right? When you have like business critical applications in place, and they just have one version of this, and this is development, test, and production. It might be that you don't have like those business continuity, that some relevant processes stop working because there's no proper staging in there. Then all data connectors are available to the citizen developers. This is a problem. Then you have the problem of the orphaned application and risks and flows, which lead to risks of business continuity. Let's say one flow owner leaves the company and the flow stops working, or an app owner leaves the company, and if there need to be made changes to this application, there's nobody to reach out to. And the last thing is you have no documentation. This has several impacts. For example, when it comes to the maker support by the IT most of the time, or you have a proper application team inside of your organization. You want to have a documentation on what is inside of your tenant. So in case anything is broken, you can quickly adapt to this. The other thing is, I hope that we have the Power Platform for the next 10, 20 years, but we had the same with Lotus Notes, for example, where you did not have a proper documentation, and it's really hard to migrate from one platform to the other. Yeah, Nigel, this is just what I meant with this is what happens if you don't have a proper governance in place. So the default environment is at that time the only environment where people are going to build their applications. This should not be the ideal case. This is just when the mess is already done. Okay, but yeah, we're going to talk about this and how to make sure that this is not going to happen to you or to your customers. By the way, we asked a couple of our customers what are their pain points. Maybe you have some. You can just unmute yourself and tell them like what you see as risks. What we have is like GDPR, which is just one of many regulations. When you go to the pharma, they have regulations called GXP, for example, where you should not store patient data inside of your Power App. You just want to be aware what people are building to make sure that they are inside of your guidelines. Then, yeah, data loss and IT security. You want to make sure that people are using just the connectors they should be able to use, and that they are not doing anything which could harm your IT security. And what I already talked about is the business continuity. So you want to make sure that those applications which are business critical, that they keep running and that they don't stop working. Nigel, if you want, you can just unmute yourself if you have something like some challenges that you're facing.
No, no, I'm just saying the biggest problem we've got is data egress, and controlling the citizen developers so they don't give away the trade secrets, so to speak.
Yeah.
That is the biggest problem with the citizen developers. So you have to put in the guardrails to stop them letting the trade secrets out.
Yeah, no, that's correct. I think this is why Some companies prohibit like building applications at all in their company, which should not be the right way. But of course, everything that's being done inside of your tenant should be within those guardrails that you're defining. Next thing is, or the first thing that you need to take into consideration is securing your tenant. This is something where you don't need any tools for this, which can be done from within the Power Platform Administrator Center. I will go on this as well as a quick demo. But the first thing is establishing an environment strategy. I'm seeing that here are a lot of people who are already aware of like what is an environment, what could my preferred environment strategy be like. But for those who don't, I want to just quickly go into the basics on what environments are. So inside of your tenant, inside of your AD tenant, you have the default environment by default. This one cannot be deleted, but there should be environments that you can create based on either audience or the purpose, or the best thing would be to have both. So for example, by the audience could be Contoso EMEA, Contoso APAC. Contoso is just the company name, replace it by your company, or Contoso North America. This just means when you're going to, that you have one audience that has access to this environment to either build applications there or use the applications or flows that are inside of this environment. This makes it easier to like categorize your projects or your initiatives that you have inside of your company. Then when you set this up, it makes sense to create environments by purpose. So in here, we take a look at the EMEA environments, and there it makes sense to have a development environment, a test environment, and a production environment, so that you can have a proper staging within your environments or within your applications. What we see often at customers is that they skip the test environment. What I recommend is having at least a development and a production environment. And if you have like applications which are really complex, then you should have a test environment in between. But else you can as well have the development and test environment combined in one environment, but there should be at least the separation between development and production. So as said, the default environment is the environment which can't be deleted by you, which has like where everyone who has the possibility to access Power Apps or Power Automate, so every licensed user can access this environment and build their application. So it should be the most restrictive one, right? You don't want to have those critical processes running on this environment. So this is why Microsoft and we always recommend to rename it to personal productivity, because with Contoso default, it's not really self-explaining. Personal productivity really is, and this is what the environment should be used for. So for just the single user or for small teams, but not for like bigger applications. Then the environment creation should be restricted to just the administrator. So only administrators should be able to add new production or test environments. Then, as said, create the environments for the audience, and for the audience, you should have different staging environments. In bigger or in larger companies, most of the time it makes sense to divide this by the region, because the environments are dedicated to a specific region at the time where you are going to add the environment. But it can be also if the company is just in one region, for example, in Germany, it could be the controlling environments, it could be the sales environments, product management, and so on. And for those, it makes sense to at least have the development environment and the production environment, maybe the test environment, depending on how many or on how complex those applications are. Of course, you can create other environments as well. For example, for POCs, when someone's saying, okay, I'm going to build an AI app with the AI builder and want to test a little bit around, you can have one specific environment for this solution, and then you can bring it into another environment, but just one environment that might have other data policy, data loss prevention policies than others. And then there should be a process in place. So if the citizen developer just sees the personal productivity environment, he's not aware that there are other environments as well. Right? So if you're going to build a community, make sure that everyone is aware of a process on how to get access to either new environments or to already existing environments where they can build and deploy their applications and processes. Dev environment should be in a separate tenancy and should not be anywhere near the production environment. So a completely other, Nigel, do you mean a completely other like AD tenant, like a demo tenant, or what do you mean by that?
Just a separate tenancy. You have a dev tenancy, and you have a which has got your dev and test environments in it, and then you have a completely separate tenancy, which has your pre-prod and prod environments in it.
Okay, that's nice.
And there the twain shall meet.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to write that down. I haven't used that so far. Okay, let's get to the data loss prevention policies. So for those who haven't heard about them before, they are going to enforce rules that you can, like which connectors can be used together and which can't. They can be defined by the administrator, and they can be applied to either all environments or just specific environments. We're going to have a quick demo after this so that you can see like how to set them up and what are the like what happens after you're going to establish those policies for the, how does it look like for the maker. You can define them by business data, non-business data, or blocked connectors. You can only use those connectors in one application or flow, which are in the same bucket. So only business data connectors can be used with business data, non-business data can be used with non-business data, and blocked connectors can't be used at all. So you can, those DLP policies, they have changed in the last months a little bit. It's still a preview feature, but you can apply granular DLP policies for non-Office 365 connectors. For example, for the SQL connector or the SQL connector, you can define whether people are just able to read or write inside of the environment. And Nigel, yes, that's right. Microsoft connectors cannot be blocked. I think the best thing is when I just jump inside of my admin center. Where is it? In here, and there we go. All right, when you just go on admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com, or you go via powerapps.com and just click on the on this pane here and click on admin center, you're going to be inside of here if you have the proper rights. There you're going to see all the environments, which can be like the normal environments that you have created, or this can be Microsoft Teams environments as well. As you see, my tenant is not that large. It's not a large enterprise company. In those you might see like thousands of Teams environments and just 12 production environments, for example, but you can just filter them. When we are going to the policies, then you can go to the data policies. And those data policies, you can, as seen, you can add different policies, and they can be either assigned to the whole tenant, so to all environments, or to just specific environments. It makes sense to have one policy that is across your whole tenant for those connectors you don't want to be used at all. For example, the Gmail connector or the Twitter connector or the Dropbox connector, right? You want to work with your Outlook then you can apply other policies to specific environments, but they are but they can be, let's say, more restrictive. So you have one overall policy, and then you have different policies for the environments. Let's just jump right in. Maybe I can answer some questions in there as well. Because yeah, the policies can be applied to more than one environment. Would be a lot of effort if you have many environments. So this is the Belgium policy. Should be, of course, be a proper naming when you're naming your policies, because you later on want to know like which policy is for which has which reason, right? You click on next, and you can see all the connectors that are being used inside of your tenant, and those at the moment are 663. What I usually do is I move everything that can be blocked into the blocked section at first, and then I just take them out to the business connector, which I see as not harmful. When I just click on here, I can't put everything to blocked because I have like many the Office 365 connectors which are not blockable. So I just order everything which is blockable, put this to yes, click on apply, and then I select all the connectors I have in here and move them to the blocked connectors in here. I'm going to clear all the filters, and I'm going to move all the Microsoft Office 365 connectors which are not blockable to the business connector. Now they're inside of here. The great thing is, like when I, for example, the SQL server connector should be in the business connector bucket as well, can be used in here, but I want to change the granular DLP policies in here. So right now, this is for everyone free to use or not free to use, still premium connector. But if they have premium licenses assigned to the user or to the application, they can use it. And you can do granular DLP policies in here. And just click on those 3 buttons, click on configure connector, and then you can either change the endpoints or the actions, and just click on actions. So some connectors provide the functionality to change the actions, and some of them who are using endpoints, you can as well define those endpoints that can be used. So in here, for example, you can say, I don't want anyone to delete rows. I don't want anyone to insert new rows. You just want to like give them read access to the connector. Let's just change them in here. And then if they're going to be new connections or new actions for this connector, you can either say if you're going to be restrictive and you say, I block everything that's new, which I would recommend in this case, or you can say all of the new connector actions are going to be allowed. And I just hit on save, and I have configured this one. You can do this with a couple of other ones as well. See, for example, for the MySQL as well. The problem is in the for the Microsoft connectors, which are like in the Office 365 suite, you can't do this granular DLP policies. The problem with this is, for example, with the Outlook connector, you have different actions you can do. You can send an email with the name of the user that's logged inside of your Power App. But of course, you can delete all the emails, or you can get all the emails and store them into a SharePoint list, which you don't want. So this is at the moment at least not possible to do this, but for most of the other like third-party connectors or most of the connectors which are not inside of the O365 suite, you can like change the granular DLP policies for them as well. For this example, just let's put the Microsoft Teams environment into the non-business environment. This is just for an example that I want to give on how it looks for the end user, for the citizen developer, when he's creating an application, for example, which uses the SharePoint connector and the Microsoft Teams connector, which are now separated into those 2 buckets. By the way, the name business and non-business, it does not really matter like how it's called. It's more or less just for you to have a proper, to divide them into 2 buckets. In the end, it just means everything that's inside of this bucket can be used together, and everything that's inside of this bucket can be used together, but you can't use connectors which are in separate buckets. Hit on next. Here you're going to have for the custom connectors, the endpoints. This is the same which you can do, for example, for the HTTP request connector inside of the pre-built connectors, where you can see which APIs, for example, you can you can have access to, and to which ones you don't. Right now, we have this pattern with the asterisks in here, which means you're going to be able to build all the connectors with all APIs at the moment. There's no restriction. You can change them as well. Or this regulations. Let's go to the scope, and here we have it. Like, hope that answers your question. You can either apply this to all environments. You can have just multiple environments where you're going to add this to, or you can say, I want to add this to all environment, but I want to exclude certain specific environments. Let's do it like this. Otherwise, my colleagues will be mad at me. I will take just my environment. I will add it to a policy. Now I have one environment. I can add more as well, but for now I will leave it like this. I click on next, and then I click on create policy. So what happens now when I go as a user to make.powerapps.com or flow.microsoft.com? Does not matter. Those policies, they're going to be applied to both Power Apps and Power Automate. And I'm going to create an application. Should be in my environment, of course, because the policy is just for Constantin's environment. And I click on create. Let's choose the Canvas app, Belgium DLP test. Then I am going to add a data connection in here. Let's first go with a SharePoint. Just going to add something here. Click on connect. And that's fine. So it worked. Let's add Microsoft Teams connector. And I'm getting this error message in here. By the way, those error messages, I haven't used it now, but I've seen it. Maybe after the session, I can send you the link that you can customize those error messages as well, so that people are aware of what they should do when the policy when they are seeing those error messages, because this one does not really help the end user, right? Okay, but this one works. This now applies to all the new applications and flows, but what happens to those flows who are already being used? This is a little bit difficult, because when a flow is running and the flow is using the SharePoint connector and the Microsoft Teams connector, the flow is going to be stopped, so it's not working anymore, and the owner is going to get an email that the flow is not compliant within your DLP policy regulations. So this might be a good thing to first check in your default environment, for example, where you want to have like strict regulations to check which applications are there, which connectors are they using, to see what impact will it have to use the DLPs for this specific environment. To, for example, write those people who are using the application with users SharePoint and Teams to make them aware that they're going to be changes, and if it's a business critical application, that they're going to be moved into another environment where the DLP is less restricted. All right. Next thing you want to do after you secured your tenant is you want to monitor the activity which is inside of your tenant. We go to this page. You want to know, for example, who are your app maker? Are they coming from the different businesses, or are they mostly from within the IT team, for example, from the application team of your company? Then you want to identify business critical applications, for example, which ones are in the default environment and that should be moved to other environments, or see like with how many users are they shared? How oftentimes have they been used in the last month, for example? So just to have an overview of which are the business critical application, and where to just see where you might give some support for your makers. Then you want to identify the orphaned ebbs and flows. Of course, this will be a risk when a flow, for example, gets orphaned, like the connection, and it's not going to be in use anymore. Then you can monitor the adoption. For example, you're having a change management campaign in your company, want to see if this is effective or not. You want to be able to track the monetary benefit of the projects, and you want to ensure the documentation of the project. As said before, like if there's some problem with the application and the owner has left the company, you want to have a documentation like which apps, flows, and so on are going to be are inside of one project. So I'm going to call it project, and which ones aren't. By the way, Nigel, yes, the Center of Excellence does a pretty good job, and like the monitoring features, they're pretty fast, like implemented inside of your solution. That's right. What I missed a little bit in the Center of Excellence, there is this project-based approach. So you have various apps in Microsoft Power Apps. You have various flows in Power Automate, and dashboards are not even in the scope, or logic apps in the scope of the Center of Excellence at the moment. But I think like they are most of the time part of the same projects, right? So you want to have a documentation of your application with those 3 flows, which you count to one project, and you want to have like a proper documentation of the whole project. As you can see here, for example, we have the management process, and in here we have those items, which is the vacation app, is an application, a Power App, then you have a Power BI dashboard, and you have Power Automate flow, for example. I believe the dashboard is customizable. Are there various templates available or the widgets to choose from in order to design your own dashboard? So when you're talking about the Center of Excellence, this is customizable, definitely. Yeah. So there is one dashboard which is there already out of the box, but you can make changes to it and adapt it to what you want to do with this. All right. Let's get to the 4th part, which is alert and acting. So you want to be notified, for example, if people are not following the rules or the governance that you set up. For example, an application owner who wants access to a development and production environment is not compliant with GDPR or with GXP. You want to be aware of that, and you want to act on that, of course. And you want to identify orphaned apps and flows, and you want to assign them to a new owner. This is what I meant before the call with like the project sponsor, because most of the time you have, or many times you have a service account, which is the owner of the app and flow, but you want to know who is like really responsible for the development and for the process of this application. Then you can like implement the approval workflows. For example, as I said before, when people want to have access to a new or existing environment, you want to know like when they want to use connectors which are premium, are you going to give them or the process that you can allocate them premium licenses, and you want to go through an approval with them when it comes to GDPR and IT security. Control of Dataverse storage is the major issue, as Microsoft give you very little storage for free. Yeah, that's definitely quite expensive to have like a lot of environments with a Dataverse inside. That's correct. The last thing is you want to enable your citizen developers. So as I said, you want to make them aware of your governance. And for example, where can I have a where's the process, or how does the process look like of getting a review or an approval for my application to go to another environment or to change my application? And you want to identify heroes. If you're doing this, this will reduce the effort for you to give maker support. because the community can help themselves. But you want to leverage your local journey, let's say, you want to promote the citizen development by, for example, gathering success stories, writing articles, publishing them inside of your community or inside of your intranet. You can provide them live trainings or on-demand trainings, for example, in if you have access to the LinkedIn Learning, or of course the Microsoft Learning Paths are great resources as well. And you want to have some kind of a wiki, which can be inside of your community, for example, in Microsoft Teams, where you can have a wiki where everyone can write in their knowledge, or where the IT administrator or the Power Platform administrator can write down everything about the governance of their company. All right, that was quick. I thought would be more of a hurry. So if you want or have some questions or something to say, you can as well like unmute yourself, so we can discuss this in here. Nigel, maybe if you want to say something. The presentation deck, I can provide them. That's fine to take a screenshot of the participants, so I can provide them to you via email. But this is something I can do like after this meeting, for sure.
The presentation is also recorded, so you can also watch it afterwards. Of course, we can share the deck via our website, maybe, and provide it also over there.
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
Can provide us a PDF or something, and
yeah,
we
sure,
can share it.
No problem. So there was one question regarding, can you show us how to implement Center of Excellence into the tenants? So setting up the COE is quite easy, and as Nigel says, it's inside of a GitHub. You're going to download a zip file where you have the different components, for example, the core components which gathers you all the information about the apps flows you have inside of your tenant, or as well as custom connectors, for example. Then you have the governance components, which gives you the possibility to, for example, check if an application hasn't been used or modified in the last 3 to 6 months, whatever you want to do in there. I think by default is 3 months. So those are the governance components to just check that your tenant key is kept clean and tidy. And you have the audit, the audit components, which gives you more insights on the usage of Power Apps inside of your tenant. So there are a couple of ones, but as I said at the beginning, it's not just plug and play. You're not just going to install it and then you have everything. It's fine for the monitoring to just set it up, and this is like done in, I would say, 2 hours maybe. But the whole governance to adapt it to your processes, to your needs, takes a little bit of time, of course, because you first need to think about like how should the process look at your company. Cool. Thanks, Birgit, for sharing the link. All right. Are there any other questions?